deep emotional trauma healing of the body and subconscious mind. He has a private practice in St. Paul. And if you want to learn more about Eric and what he offers, you can visit his website, www.ericchristofer.com. So Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, please welcome Eric Christopher.
Thank you. Thank you, Ella. One minor correction, it's ericchristopher.com was already taken, and so I had to settle with ericchristopher.com. J stands for Jonathan, that's my middle name. But anyway, it's a delight to be here today. Thank you for inviting me back to speak here. It's a delight to speak at a place that promotes an opportunity for growth and wisdom and community. And one of my favorite spiritual teachers was named Paramahansa Yogananda. He wrote the book Autobiography of a Yogi. And he once said that there's one thing more important than willpower, especially when you're beginning on the spiritual path, and that is community. It's so important to surround yourself with a group of like-minded souls that are on the path of growing and evolving and awakening. Very powerful. Growth and evolution. So today I'm going to talk about this month's theme, which is living in the light. And I'm going to share a few case examples that exemplify that, living in the light. And then I'm going to do my customary guided journey with you all for about the last 15 minutes of today, where I'm going to help you connect to that light within yourself. And that will be a wonderful way to kick off 2024. So when I learned about this month's theme of living in the light, I thought to myself, well, a very helpful way to live in the light is to recognize that you are the light. And that's true. Each and every one of you here is an incredible, magnificent soul being that is eternal and indestructible and outside of time and space. And you're not separate from source energy. And you couldn't separate yourself from that part of you if you tried, because you are that. But, and you can even pat yourself on the back for even being here on Earth, because Earth is a very challenging place to come to. Some of you may have noticed that. And one of the most challenging aspects of being on Earth is the amnesia that we take. It goes along with the human experience. The amnesia, the forgetfulness of who and what we really are while we're living this human experience. One of my very favorite spiritual teachers is named Adyashanti, and he's an awakened individual, sage. He's still alive. But he once said, the human experience is like the greatest sleight of hand card trick. We live our whole lives identified with this body and then the programming and conditioning that goes along with the body, but we totally lose sight that we're these eternal soul beings animating this body. And we're eternal, and we lose sight of that in this human experience. In a sense, it's that way by design. So I didn't always understand that. Growing up, my dad was a Methodist minister, and there may have been some talk of we have a soul, but there was zero talk about reincarnation or the idea that we are these souls having a human experience. That was totally not on the radar. And it wasn't until I was probably in my early to mid-20s that I began to have some experiences that opened my mind up to a larger reality. And I trace it back the very first time that I started to awaken to this idea that we're these eternal soul beings, is that I was backpacking around India when I was 24 years old. And I know I've told this story here many years ago, but I'm going to tell it again. I decided while I was backpacking around India that I thought I would work at the Mother Teresa home for the destitute and dying in Calcutta. And I went there and, I said to the person in charge, what should I do? This is my first day. And the guy said, well, why don't you go sit with that man over there because he's dying. And there was man was laying on a cot. There was about 50 cots there. And I pulled up and probably 30 of them were filled with people laying on them. But I walked over to this man and pulled up a stool and, started talking to him. And he looked at me in the eyes and started talking to me. And I tried to tell him, look, I don't understand what you're saying, because he was talking in a Bengali, which is a local dialect. But he looked in my eyes. It didn't matter to him. He kept talking to me, and he reached out his arms, and I grabbed his arms, and he just died right in my arms. And his consciousness just left him. His heat, his light, his electricity just left him. And he became this cold, hard thing. His eyes glazed over, and he got more and more stiff. And we took his body and we later threw it on a burning pyre. And what was going through my mind is Einstein's theory of conservation that says you can't ever destroy energy. It gets transformed, but you can never destroy it. And what kept going through my mind also was, wait, what I was just talking to was not that body that we're burning right now. It was his light and energy and consciousness, wherever that is, and wherever it is now. And then something happened a few days after that. I began to have this experience. It only lasted for 2 days, but it felt like these eyes were windows, and I was looking out through the windows of my eyes. And I was safe and secure. I felt like there was nothing that can harm me as I'm looking out through my windows of my eyes. And I realized later that I was given a glimpse of a larger reality there. I was seeing through the eyes of either my soul or some higher consciousness that wasn't going to die. That only lasted for 2 days, unfortunately, because it was a very freeing feeling. And then I heard this quote from Ram Dass that made total sense to me. It's a funny quote. He said, "Death is absolutely safe." And that made so much sense to me at that time. And it's kind of like we have these different channels. It's like, when you change a channel on a TV show, it's like you change the channel, it moves to a different vibrational frequency, and you can see a different TV show. Well, we, in the same way, can tune into, it's like the default channel for us as a human is seeing through the eyes of this body and mind personality. Our bodies, and then, of course, the programming and conditioning that goes with the body, our minds. Our minds are, they're based in the past, they project into the future. As the human experience is being caught in your mind, very seldom in the present moment. And so I realized, okay, there's different channels. Just like you can kind of be in the default channel, but then click, you can also tune into that soul aspect perspective. And then there's an even higher channel. The highest channel would be Christ consciousness, which means oneness consciousness. Christ was not his last name. It was a title bestowed onto him. He had a oneness consciousness, which means that when you're looking around and you see a cat or a dog or a tree or a person, you know that you're identified with the consciousness that animates not only you, but everyone else and everything. There's a unity consciousness with that. And that would be like the highest. But not easy to connect to that. But this day and age, there are people that are popping awake like popcorn, spiritual awakening experiences where they're steeped in that unity consciousness. I've had a couple of clients in the last few months that talk about having that. So it goes with the consciousness level of the planet raising. So my mind is thinking, okay, how can we tune into this eternal part of you, this eternal part of us that we already are? How can we easily do that? And I realized, well, you can. By quieting this thinking mind down and going deep within, then you can connect to that aspect of yourself. And that's meditation. Meditation is about quieting the thinking mind and getting yourself real focused in the present moment. And that present moment is the portal to this eternal aspect of self. So that's the idea behind meditation. Of course, every time when someone tries to meditate, the first thing they notice is their mind is like a wild racehorse. So it does take a little bit of practice. But then I read a book about past life regression, and I realized, whoa, this is another means of helping person connect to their soul self. And basically, so then I basically made a career out of doing that. So I've been doing that for the last 23 years. But essentially what I tell people is, look, hypnosis, think of it as just like a shortcut route to get into a super deep state of meditation. And then we're going to turn it into a guided imagery or a guided journey where you imagine floating up above yourself and you start to tune more into that soul aspect of self. And when a person does past life regression, they're making an intention, and you ask, show me a life I've lived before as a soul that's going to be helpful and beneficial for me to see. And 9 times out of 10, you tend to see a life that's somehow beneficial. It's relevant to this life moving forward or growing or evolving in some way. Why is that? It's because just as the body's instinct is to breathe, the soul's instinct is to grow and evolve. And so therefore, as you start to tune into that soul part of you that you already are, that part is very interested in this body and mind part to somehow gain some insight, wisdom, clarity, healing, something that's going to help you move forward. So that's why it tends to work most of the time that way. Now, I'm going to give an example of that. A man came to me. He was actually a medical doctor. And he had a frozen shoulder, left shoulder. He could hardly move his arm up. And of course, he had been to the Mayo Clinic many times. He was open to alternative healing, so he'd been to a lot of alternative practitioners, and nothing was really working. And so I was kind of his last stop. I'm often a lot of people's last stop. And, but so he tried past life regression, and he saw himself in this past life of being a really strong, buff Roman soldier. And he was really good at what he did, and that was he was like a killing machine. And he was right-handed. I know he was left-handed in that life. He held a shield in his right hand, and he just put out all these peasant uprisings with his left hand and just did a lot of killing. And he was good at what he did. But when that life was over, he moved up into the spirit realm, into a higher vibration, a higher level of consciousness, and he began to feel bad about all of the fatherless homes that he created, and all the widows that he created, and all the suffering and sadness and loss that he had created. And then the insights started to drop in. He said, I think this must be somehow related to this shoulder. Well, I can't really move it. And so I told him, well, just let this eternal part of you call upon the eternal part of all those that you ever harmed in that life. And he got an impression of doing that. And I said, just communicate with what most wants to be communicated. And so he communicated, I'm sorry, I apologize. But the answer that came back to him was, all is forgiven. You are just being a human, living blindly like all humans do. It's okay. You didn't understand. You're just being a human. But so that he could feel that sense of guilt that somehow carried over in the mental and emotional energy bodies. And somehow that got released after the session. He was able to raise his arm right up. I saw him 3 years later at a talk by Dr. Larry Dossey, Dr. Larry Dossey was doing a presentation on all these double-blind studies on the power of prayer. But anyway, this doctor, he came right up to me and he raised his hand. He said, "Eric, that's the only thing that ever seemed to work." And so it's an example of, and I'm not trying to say that every time you're going to find the answer to your illness in a past life, but sometimes you do. We have a physical, mental, and emotional energy body, and sometimes that gets carried over to impact the present life. I've seen that hundreds and hundreds of times. But when you connect to the soul self, that part of you can do something to heal it, let it go with your will and intent. Energetically let it go. And I want to give another example. My dad once told me when I was first getting into this work, he said, "What's the value of knowing about reincarnation?" And I didn't know what to say at that time. But now, after hearing this case, I would know what to say, and you'll know what I mean when I share it. It wasn't anything that I did. I heard it when I went to the first Congress in regression therapy. It was in Holland back in 2003. There was a presenter there who did a workshop. He was a medical doctor from Israel. He was Jewish. He was in his 70s, but he did past life regression as well as being a medical doctor. He had grown up in the first 6 years of his life in Germany, but he escaped Germany when things were getting, pretty bad there in 1936, emigrated to Israel. But what he was presenting was all these various cases of some of his Jewish clients that in a past life had been German, and various non-Jew clients that were Jewish in a past life. And he shared one case in particular. He said there was this one woman who was a psychologist, a therapist, that came to him because she just bristled. If anyone had anything to do with the Holocaust or brought it up or talked about it, she just bristled. And she began to have nightmares at night about being in the Holocaust, except that she was not a victim, she was a perpetrator of it. And so he regressed her back, and she saw herself in a life of a young girl growing up in a small town in southern Germany. It was soon after World War I. That was kind of the opening scene. Her father came back from the World War I having lost a leg. He was very embittered. He was anti-Semitic. The whole town was anti-Semitic pretty much. But he was a cruel father. He would beat the children. And it wasn't a safe environment. She found a way to escape and left home when she was about 15 or 16 years old. Bounced around from job to job to job. But the job that she found was the job that made her feel really powerful and strong, and that was being a concentration camp guard. And now she was holding the club, and it made her feel really powerful and strong rather than having to cower. And she took out a lot of her anger on the prisoners there. And she was such a cruel guard there at Auschwitz that after it was liberated in 1945, in 1946, she was tried and hung as a Nazi war criminal. And Dr. Eli Locke was able to verify her birth records and her death records. She didn't even have that much remorse when she died. But again, when her soul went up to the higher vibration, into a higher level of consciousness, during this regression, her soul self said, "Gosh, I really need to learn more about that group of people that I was persecuting, that I was judging, that I was discriminating against." And so she incarnated in 1948, 2 years later, which is pretty quick for a soul, She incarnated into a wealthy Jewish family that was a third-ring suburb of Boston. She was going to be expected to go to college. She did. She became a therapist, but there was always something pulling her to learn more about her Jewish heritage. So she found herself immigrating to Israel. She lived in Jerusalem, and then everything comes full circle, and you see that larger picture. And the moral of the story is, if you're going to judge or you're going to discriminate against a group of people, you might want to be choosy, because you may want to incarnate into that same very group of people, because the soul is wanting to learn balance here. And so how powerful that is. If everyone knew who and what we really are behind the scenes, there wouldn't be any judgment. There would be no wars like this. There would be no discrimination of others if we could see what's going on behind the scenes. So spiritually awakening to our higher selves was a very valuable thing. And I could tell my dad the value of reincarnation after I heard that story. But no, in my personal experience, I've had many cases of that too. People changing races, changing religion, with every different incarnation. So I am going to share one more case study, because this is it's going to tie a nice bow around this talk today. A woman came to me, it was 10 years ago, and at the time she was in her 20s, early 20s. She's 23. And she wanted to do past life regression, so she did. She saw herself in Vietnam, and she was a pilot. They got shot down, and she was captured by the Viet Cong, held in like one of those cages. And in fact, interesting, she knew her name, and she knew the person next to her too, remembered that. And we were able to verify her life in the virtual Vietnam Memorial wall. But she was killed in captivity. And when her soul rose up, she looked down at the body, and the first thing she said was, "Oh my God, I'm MIA POW, missing in action, prisoner of war. Nobody knows how I died." And all of a sudden a light bulb drops in and says, "Oh my God, that's why I've just been my whole life obsessed in becoming a medical examiner, so I can tell people how they died." The soul then went, the first thing it did was go home. It went to a home in a kind of a small farm area in southern Illinois, and visited the family, and was all excited to see the family again, but the family didn't know he was there, except the young child who was, his wife before going off to war was pregnant with his child. He had never seen the child, but went there and could see the child then as a soul. And this child could see him and interact, but the child wasn't verbal. But the child was the only one that knew he's around. But after a while, his soul began to feel that pull, the pull to go up to a higher vibration, which he did. And when he got to the higher vibration of the soul, she began to have a lot of insights. Like, oh, I don't really like who my wife married in that life. He was a seedy character. And then she said, my wife doesn't live very long. She dies. So I told her then, as she was tuning into the eternal soul part of her, I said, let this eternal soul part of you now call upon the eternal soul of your wife in that life, because things move at the speed of a thought. And when that happens, sometimes, well, you can make a connection that way. And then the soul came. And all of a sudden, she just burst out into tears. And she said, when I have my first daughter, she's going to be incarnated as my first daughter in this life. And she just knew it. This is a woman who was highly intuitive. And she had, in that spiritual realm, souls were coming to her of loved ones from her life that had been deceased. Then other souls started coming to her. And she's a person that's kind of a medium and was a psychic and highly intuitive already. So she actually had experiences of souls coming to her and then wanting her to give messages to someone, in the physical world. She had already had that. But then she told me something that made my jaw drop. And I'd had a lot of mystical, not a lot, but a few mystical experiences. But she said this, she said, Eric, there's a man here that wants to give you a message. He's from India. He said that you were with him when he died. He wants to thank you. And I had these goosebumps. There's no way she could have known that. I had all these goosebumps. And I just found myself stammering, tell him thanks for stopping by. I wish that I had said thank you for being the catalyst that opened me up to a larger way of seeing reality. That began, thank you for opening me up and being the first person to help launch me on my spiritual journey. I wish I had said that, but maybe he'll get that now. So, I'm going to now spend some time to guide you all on an inner journey. An inner journey to connect not only to your own higher self, but of source energy. Before we do that, I just want to share, I have some cards over there if you want on that table, and also I'm having an upcoming workshop in past life regression. It's basically, what we're going to do is share the evidence of reincarnation, some fascinating past life experiences, plenty of time for questions, and then we're going to do a group guided past life regression. So that information is there if you're interested. But now, when we do this guided journey today, one of the most important thing to know is we want you to be present moment focused. This thinking mind that wanders around, it tends to pull you out. It keeps you anchored in this third dimension. But if you can quiet that down and just bring your focus to the present moment, you're going to go deeper and deeper. And to that degree, you can have a very good experience today. And the thinking mind will be there in this guided journey. And it's going to say this, it's going to say, I think I'm imagining this all. Well, you are. Yes, that's true. But what's also true is that you are an eternal soul being and you are not separate from source. So both are true at the same time. It's kind of like this. I can say I'm in Minneapolis, and I can also say I'm in Minnesota, and I can also say I'm on planet Earth, and they're all true at the same time. So what we're going to do is just do this guided journey. And it'll be a wonderful way to connect to the light within yourself that you already are, and launch into the new year with that. So with that, as best you can, just get relaxed. Maybe meditate a little bit. And you can close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, just imagine that you place a circle of light around you, about an arm's length away. And then you just imagine that you draw a dark curtain on anything outside of that circle of light, just so that anything that might serve as a distraction for the next 15 minutes, let that all fade away to non-existence. You can pick it all up again later afterwards, of course, but for the next 15 or 20 minutes, just let yourself only focus on my words and on your own inner journey experience. So now, I'm going to play a tone. Just follow the tone into the silence. And while you're doing that, just tune into your breath. Feel the breath in the body. And imagine that with every exhalation, you're letting your body get a little bit more and a little bit more relaxed. and you're emptying your mind. Your mind is getting a little bit more and more relaxed with every exhalation, meaning letting your mind grow twice as calm and still and serene and blank and quiet with each exhalation. And then as you follow the tone into the silence, allow that to enable you to relax even deeper in your own present moment experience, letting the body relax even more and the mind relax even more. And now, in just this moment, see or feel or sense yourself walking down a hallway, feeling your feet as you're walking down this hallway. And up ahead is a stairway that goes down 10 stairs. In a few moments, I'll count you down the stairway. It's a special stairway in the sense that with every stair that you hit with your foot in your mind's eye, you sink yet another level deeper in physical and mental relaxation. And the closer that we get down to that first level stair, the further away that we get from this physical realm of time and space and form. And the more you begin to drop down deeper and deeper into yourself, ultimately connecting to a deeper part of you, a more permanent part of you. At the bottom of the stairs, there's a beautiful garden. So we're going to count down down those stairs now. So you can grab a hold of a railing if you'd like, but just feel your foot on every stair. So let's drop from 10 and drop down to 9. Yet another level deeper in physical and mental relaxation, you drop down to 8. Deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed, you drop down to 7. Letting the physical world fade behind you as you drop down to 6. Going deeper into yourself as you drop down to 5. The physical world continues to fade behind you as you drop down to 4. Going deeper into yourself as you drop down to 3. Deeper and deeper down to 2. Deeper and deeper down to 1. And you step on off now into a beautiful garden. As you step deeper into this beautiful garden, that stairway just fades away behind you. And you can kick off your shoes and just feel the soft grass beneath your feet. And you find yourself now gravitating to an area of the garden that is the source of this beautiful fragrance that's in the air in the garden. And the source of this fragrance is these beautiful flowers. And as you approach these flowers, you can begin to soak in the perfume fragrance of these flowers. But now, while you're there in the garden, in a few moments when I play the tone, that'll be a signal for you to drift on up outside of yourself and then look down at yourself in the garden from a third person point of view. It'll be as if you're just lifting on up and looking down and seeing yourself, enjoying yourself in the garden, having a good time. Here we go. 3, 2, and now 1. And you now lift on up and you look down and you can see yourself down there having a good time in the garden, and you can just notice the top of your head down there. And even if you just get a vague image or impression of that in your mind's eye, good enough. Vague thought about it is good enough. And then you allow your consciousness to lightly and freely begin to drift up higher and higher so that you can look down and see more and more of that garden down there. And soon you can see a mile or so around that garden, and you can see that that garden is getting much smaller as your consciousness begins to float up higher, higher, and higher. And before long, though, you're noticing that you can see for hundreds of miles all around, and you can't even see your body anymore down there, and you can't even see the garden for that matter. And then as you drift higher still, you just temporarily leave down there your body and mind identity, but you more begin to tune into and identify with the light and energy and consciousness that animates that body down there. You more begin to tune into and identify with the soul self of pure consciousness as you lightly and freely drift higher and higher, almost like a balloon that floats higher and higher. Soon you can see the curvature of the earth and you now leave the Earth's atmosphere. You enter outer space, turning around and seeing that Earth down there getting smaller and smaller as you drift higher, further, deeper into space. And soon that Earth is looking so small it could be about the size of a marble down there. And as you float higher, it becomes the size of a grain of sand. And then as you drift higher still, that Earth just completely disappears. And then you turn around and look up and you continue to drift higher, further, deeper into space, away from where that Earth was. And way in the distance, there's a light. In your mind's eye, you simply create a light. This is the light of source energy. It's the light of home in the ultimate sense. And as you find yourself floating and drifting towards that light, you begin to feel a growing sense of warmth, a growing sense of peace, a growing sense of well-being that continues to grow stronger as you get closer and closer to that light. It's as though you're magnetically drawn to the light, just as the light is magnetically drawn to you, and it is as though you're floating towards that light on an energy current that guides you and pulls you all the way up towards its own very source. And then you allow the outer reaches of this light in this moment to now lovingly envelop you and now pull you into its center, so that you as this energy being just merge into the very heart and center of this light of source energy. And you simply rest here. You simply rest here and you begin to soak in these high vibrations like a sponge, allowing them to saturate your whole being. And you give the gift of your full presence to this light of source energy, and you allow the light of source energy to give you the gift of its full presence. And you now begin to breathe in and actually feel certain specific qualities of this light of source energy. And here's where you become a little bit more of an active participant here, because one of the qualities of the light of source energy is of deep peace. So in this moment, you're now breathing in the vibration of peace right into the heart center on the inhalation. And on the exhalation, letting the vibrations of peace flood through your whole being on the exhalation. Feeling the vibrations of peace on the inhalation, letting the vibrations of peace flood through your whole being on the exhalation. And now there's another quality that we're going to compare that with. This is a quality of source energy, which is joy. So in this moment, you're now breathing in the vibrations of joy right into the heart center. And the inhalation. And the exhalation, letting the vibrations of joy flood through your whole being on the exhalation. If anyone has a hard time feeling the vibrations of joy, all you have to do is just think of the most joyful experience you've ever had in your entire life. Think of it, be there, take in those vibrations, let go of the scene, hang on to the vibrations of joy. Exhalation, it spreads through your whole being. If you pay really close attention, if your mind is like a microscope, you can actually feel the subtle difference between the vibrations of peace and of joy. Joy will feel a little more vibrant and alive. And now you breathe in the vibrations of source, which is unconditional love and acceptance. You breathe that in on the inhalation, exhalation, letting the vibrations of unconditional love and acceptance wash through every cell, molecule, and atom of your being and all of the space in between. Feeling that vibration of unconditional love and acceptance. And then the final quality that we're going to focus on right now is the vibration of source, which is pure safety and security. As you breathe in on the inhalation and on the exhalation, letting the vibrations of safety and security flood through your whole being. And now you feel what that feels like. And just for a few moments now, you just let go of the focus of your mind. Just breathe in a combination of all of these qualities of source energy. Breathing in a combination of deep peace and of joy and of unconditional love and acceptance and pure safety and security. Now, because you are an energy being that comes from this source energy, we're going to take it one step further for just the next few moments. So for the next few moments, just imagine that you're breathing in so much of these high vibration qualities of source energy that the boundaries between you and this source energy just begin to melt away for a few moments. So that you as this energy being just melt into and merge as one in this infinite ocean of source energy. And just for a few moments you feel yourself expanding out on all sides into infinity. To the right into infinity. To the left into eternity. Above you to eternity. Below you to infinity. In front of you to eternity, behind you to eternity, on all sides simultaneously into eternity. So in only this moment, there is no more up or down or here or there or sideways. There's only here, only now, just this oneness. As you follow the tone into the silence, just allow yourself to relax deeper and deeper into your own present moment experience of resting and basking in and as this source energy of pure creative potential. And while you're resting and basking in and as this light of source energy, you look down to where the earth used to be, and instead of the earth being there, there's a line. Duality is now created. There's you and this line down there, and this is a timeline of your life, and the future is way off to the right, the past is to the left, and the present is straight below. So now, you notice the present and the past. The past is to the left. If there's any challenging experiences in your life, the earth life is full of challenging experiences. If there's any negative thoughts or feelings or beliefs that got formed from the past, in this moment you just feel that thought form energy from the past and you just can let it go now. Past doesn't exist. You can keep whatever serves you from the past, you keep. Whatever does not serve you, you can let go. Release it and replace it with the light of source energy, which is the light of your own true higher self. And then you begin to notice the present and the future self. And because you are a being of pure creative potential, you can create that next best, grandest version of yourself. You can create a version of yourself down there in which it is as though your body and mind system is like a clear vessel for the brilliance of your soul self to shine through. Totally unimpeded by any of the old programming and conditioning that doesn't benefit or serve you. And while you're looking down at yourself, this is where you can create that next best version of yourself. And you notice how much love, how much gratitude, how much sharing and caring can you bring into each moment. If you want more joy in your life, Be the source of joy for another. If you want more connection or love in your life, be the source of connection and love for another. Be the source of whatever it is that you want more of in your life. And see yourself walking around aware that you are this wonderful soul being that's based in love, using this body. And when you see another outside of you, silently you acknowledge their divine self. Because when your divine soul self even silently acknowledges their divine soul self, could even be a stranger in the grocery store or someone you know, at some level their divine self knows that it's being acknowledged, and it'll feel really good being in your presence. Seeing yourself, consciously knowing you are the light. And then you'll move through life differently. It's more safer to love. You can take risks. It's safer to give and receive love. And while you're resting above this self, creating this next best version of yourself, feeling the light that you are, I'm going to read a quote and just let the words soak into your whole being. It's a quote by Marianne Williamson, also used by Nelson Mandela. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant and gorgeous and talented and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that was within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." So take a few moments, rest here, decide who and what you want to be, not only for today and tomorrow, but for the rest of your life. And feel that. Notice what that feels like, because that is an energy that we're going to bring back with you today. So now I'm going to count up. I'm going to count up from 1 up to 5. As I reach the count of 5, you can allow yourself to emerge, feeling refreshed, alive, alert, feeling better in every way. 1, coming back together, body, mind, and soul, all together as one in your present body. 2, leaving behind any heavy, dense energies in the forms of thoughts, feelings, beliefs, perspectives, fears that no longer benefit and serve you. Instead, you bring back with you the thoughts and feelings and perspectives that do benefit and serve you and are based in a higher truth. You bring this back with you now as I count 3, and you now begin to feel the full support of the chair beneath your body. Taking deeper breaths into the body as I now count 4. Feeling your arms and legs there, feeling body in the chair, feeling breath in the body. Breath is the link between the body and this eternal part of you. So from this day forward, as you tune into the breath, you'll tune into this eternal free part of you. And now with that, take one more nice, deep, purifying and cleansing breath. And 5. And wide awake. And welcome back to this dimension. So, it's been a great honor and privilege to be here today and speak with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I don't know about the rest of you, but I usually need a few more minutes to get back in my body after these meditations. So how about this? We'll take one more breath just to make sure that we're anchored back in our bodies. So, all right. Well, thank you, Eric. There was a lot to think about. And for those of you who don't know, we do have a YouTube channel, and we live stream through YouTube and Facebook and another medium, but our services are stored on YouTube. So if you want to go back and remember what was talked about, please do so. Lake Harriet Spiritual Community does not have any other source of income, so what we're asking in a moment, I'll have the ushers pass the basket, is that you share with us your gifts. To help keep the lights open, the doors open, the lights on, and help us keep bringing speakers like Eric here to help us grow, raise our vibrations, expand our consciousness, and affect the planet. Oh my! All right, so give what you can today. If you don't have any cash, we do have some Venmo QR code stickers in the baskets, and you can also consider going to our website and donating through PayPal. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Would old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. And surely you'll buy your pine cup, and surely I'll buy mine, and we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne, for old lang syne, my dear, for we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. We too have run about the slopes and picked the daisies fine, but we've wandered.
Thank you, Music Meister. That was a perfect song to end. You gotta do it. You have to. So if you'll help me in blessing the offerings by repeating after me, God's perfect love, flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Oh. Well, our tradition is to, at the end, circle up in a form of community, and the speaker will lead us through closing activities. So I think we've got enough for everybody to just circle up around the middle section here. Starting from the back. All right.
Okay.
I think we've got enough people. We can do it. We can do it.
We can do it.
Just
Yeah.
have to connect.
Yeah.
Don, where are you? We can do it. We can do it. We're almost ready. All right, check it out.
Great.
Good job. All right, good job.
Okay. So let's just take a nice deep breath, close our eyes. May we continue to grow from ignorance to wisdom, from restlessness to peace, and may we continue to awaken to the light within us and the light within others, so that we can continue to live in the light and as that light. Om. Peace, and amen, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Yeah.